Hi, everyone. I thought I would share a few of my ideas on humanity, on how we can try to improve this broken world. And we know that we're living in a broken world right now. All we have to do is look around us and we can see so many people who are angry. One religion against another, one group of people against another, one race against another. What happened? That wasn't the intent of our experience here on this earth, not for a moment. The intention, I believe, for all of us to be here was to support one another and to help us get through this thing called life. But somewhere around, somewhere, something happened and people started to be very selfish, thinking only about themselves and not about their fellow brother and sister. I think we need to change that. No, I'm going to rephrase that. We do need to change that. We need to take control of ourselves and take control of the world, really. We need to start treating each other with dignity and respect and leaning on one another in difficult times. I think that that's the way that it was intended. If we think way back when to the beginning of time, cave people, little communities that gathered. Now, I don't profess to know how that all began. I don't know. Everybody's got a different thought on it. Not everybody, but some people. But the point is that if we imagine in prehistoric times, a small community, 10, 20 people maybe, they all had to depend on one another. They all had to support one another. They all had their different tasks to do. Some people gathered berries, other people hunted. That's the way it was. And if you didn't get along in that community, they could shun you out. They could say, well, hey, listen, there's the door, or there's the cave opening, and you're free to go. And in fact, good luck. Here's a spear. Don't let the saber-toothed tigers kill you. So you're out on your own. And that's just the way it was. So we learned to be dependent on one another. And this is the way that we're brought into the world, isn't it? To depend on our parents. The infants that are brought into the world depend on their food, their shelter, their protection from others. They depend on their parents. They depend on their mother. They depend on their father. What happened? Again, I think we became me-centered. We are not a big part of the picture. It's me. What can I get? What do I get to do? I got to change that. Not that wanting things is a bad thing. No, of course not. But it's extremely important that we remind ourselves that we're not in this alone. And that in those difficult times, we can turn to somebody. We can ask somebody for help. Or we could lend a helping hand. And that people may be different than us. They may have a different skin color than we do. They may have different religious beliefs than we do. They may have been born someplace different than we were. They're entitled to believe the way that they do. They're entitled to have their preferences. But we're all more similar than we are different. We all laugh, love, and bleed in the same way. So when we are with someone who may be different than we are, we don't always have to agree with their beliefs, but we certainly should listen to them without judgment and try to get along. Those are my thoughts for the moment. I come from a very interesting background, and I'll just touch on this for a moment, but I was a peacekeeper. I've been across the world. I've been a police officer. I've done a lot of things. I've dealt with a lot of conflict, and I've been able to survive. And one of the ways in which I did that was by treating others the way that I wanted to be treated myself. You get what you give. And if you give someone hatred and disrespect, they're likely to give you that in return. But if you give someone dignity and respect, you're also likely to get that in return. Just a few of my thoughts, and thanks for listening.